Hello and welcome to NoCB, a grand strategy podcast. I am your host, TJ Hafer, and we have the full original gang back together for the first time in a while, including Rose.
Hello.
Including Lambert.
Hello there.
And, of course, including Father Loris.
Hello. Hello.
Who did fall asleep in front of the fireplace.
We have a Rosebud in attendance as well.
Yes, he's happily asleep. Just like 2 minutes ago.
So don't anybody jinx it. Yeah. So we are kind of moving into the summer months. The CK3 team has joined Hearts of Iron 4 and Stellaris in saying that they are kind of on a dev diary hiatus for now. But EU4 luckily is not. So we will at least have some dev diaries to talk about through the Swedish summer break. Neon DT, one of the content designers from EU4, said that they would rather take their vacation later when they're not stuck in quarantine, and thus will continue to work in defiance of all Swedish law and tradition through the regular summer break. So we'll be starting off the show with some EU4 dev diaries for the first little while, and I was pretty excited to see this one because I've said on the show multiple times before, Southeast Asia is probably the largest significant area of the map in EU4 that has never really gotten a full flavor pass like most of the rest of the world has, and they are now going to do a patch that is at least partially focused on Southeast Asia. I don't know if that will be the whole focus of the patch. They haven't told us what the patch is called yet, which is usually a hint as to what the focus is. They also conspicuously said they can't tell if it's going to be a standalone patch, a flavor pack, or a DLC. So it could really be any of those three things. But yeah, we're getting a significant update to the map of Southeast Asia. Not a ton of new tags, but quite a few new provinces, and also a new mountain range that will help Vietnam be a little bit more defensible. Anything that stuck out about these changes to you guys?
This province density is way more in line with what it should be. Honestly, it looks like something more akin to what Mayo and Tax's Southeast Asia looks like, rather than vanilla EU4. So I like it.
We're gonna start a game where people just take bets on how many minutes into the episode until Lambert mentions MEIOU and taxes, and how long until Loris mentions Tibet. Those are the two bets we're gonna.
Technically, we've been live and talking for less than 3 minutes now, so
yeah. We'll have to figure out a way to do it blind so they can't see what people bet on and manipulate it to their own benefit. But yeah.
Could just do anytime M&T is mentioned, you take a drink.
There you go. Yeah.
Let's get drunk.
A drink of water. We're not allowed, technically under Twitch rules, we're not allowed to encourage people to participate in drinking games.
Yes.
You take a drink of the beverage of your choice.
Yes. A beverage
and water
of choice.
is the best beverage.
Yes,
I didn't know Twitch was so damn boring.
Yeah.
I agree. Water is the best beverage when it's added to a tea bag and some milk.
Well,
you don't understand how much water someone who's breastfeeding has to drink. Oh my god, I'm turning into a fish.
Yeah. Well, we will be able to get some additional tea in our EU4 games now that we can get more of a provincial granularity in Southeast Asia. Open up some possibilities for some trade companies. Is this a thing? Is this a real transition, or am I just stumbling?
No, that was a beautiful segue.
That was
from
beautiful,
tea
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm
in favor.
They're breaking up the culture groups a little bit more too, kind of more in line with what they've done in Europe and a couple other places recently, where it's not so much based on linguistic relation. It's more based on where the natural paths of expansion for a given empire are. I know, this caused a bit of an uproar when they put the Ottomans into the Arab/Levantine culture group instead of the Turkish culture group, which philosophically, I would rather that they kind of stuck with linguistic groups, but I'm also a language nerd, so I'm a little bit biased on that front.
Yeah, I wish it was linguistic.
I don't think there's any, no matter which route you go down, whether it's linguistic, whether it's, ethnic, or whether it's, we used to be the same people, and then because, half of us got conquered, and then hundreds of years have passed, and now we're sort of different people now, even though we still speak the same language, blah, 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 whatever. There is no option that they can go down where there isn't going to be some problematic period or some problem with what they're doing for some group. There isn't any right answer, so...
Yeah, well, and I think, sort of the archetype of this is probably Finnish. Because yes, by the end of the EU4 time period, Finland was definitely one of the Nordic nations. It is closely culturally and economically aligned with the Scandinavian countries, not so much with the other Finno-Ugric speakers on the other side of the Russian border who have kind of developed, as part of the Russian Empire.
Quick shout out to the lovely Mordred Viking for showing us. Rated? Yes, he rated us. We're talking about Scandinavia, and the Vikings come and raid us.
Yeah, always welcome. Yeah, the Viking raids are always welcome. So what was it? We were talking about culture groups.
Finland's.
So Finland's in the Scandinavian one. On a related note, isn't it?
Right.
And linguistically, they're closer to Hungary.
Yeah.
Right. So, language does not always equate to culture. There's no real way. I think the way that I have said in the past that I would do it is to maybe have a culture affinity system where, the way CK2 has de jure drift, you could actually have cultures drift in and out of cultural spheres. That might be an interesting way to do it. If the Ottomans end up conquering, the Timurids, they could become more closely aligned to the Turkic peoples in Central Asia, whereas if they push further into Europe, they become a little bit more aligned that way. It's sort of how CK3 is I like sort of how CK3 is doing it with the cultural innovations, where if a significant portion of your culture is present in a region that qualifies for a unique technology, you can gain access to it. Something like that would be cool. More dynamism is always cool.
Yeah. I agree.
I think in my ideal world, we'd have population numbers in every province, and we'd just have a graph saying the percentage of people who speak this language and this language and this language, and then you would just be able to, not bother with culture groups or cultures at all. It'd just be, you speak this language and you speak this language. And then maybe you'd bring up things like the Mediterranean language, which was a mix of Turkish and Italian and Spanish all mixed together, that, pirates and sailors and tradesmen would use in the Mediterranean Sea.
Really? I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, it died out in the 1800s. It's something I only learned about very recently. And there was a case where I believe, I think it was in Malta, some trader came to Malta and no one could speak to him apart from one dude who was from Cornwall, because Cornish was also apparently a part of that language. So it's people who were fishermen generally could understand this trader's dialect.
That Mediterranean language is Gertlash.
So
I think that just not a system of languages rather than culture, because then it gets a bit mucky with all
it's
the
hard
rest
to
of the baggage that culture comes with.
It's hard to really define what is culture, and in a lot of parts of the world, especially outside of Europe and the Middle East, what is religion is even a question that's not as easy to answer as these abstractions in these grand strategy games kind of seem to make it out to be. So it'd be interesting to see someone take a different, slightly less absolutist approach to, the idea of provincial culture and religion. Like maybe, there are cultural institutions that can spread, and then your culture in a given area is made up of different cultural institutions, and one of those could be a language related thing. I don't know. We might be getting like to the point where it's just going to be too complex to really.
Well, and when we're talking about culture and languages, let's say, for those who don't know, I spent 5 years living in Korea. I'm married to someone who's Korean, who also speaks some Japanese, and he actually had a lot easier time learning Japanese than English. Mm-hmm. But culture-wise, modern culture-wise, Korea has a lot more in common in many ways with more modern American pop culture than compared with Japanese.
Interesting.
Just because they've been so influenced by the U.S. helping rebuild the nation.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know Japan has that to some degree, but maybe not to as much of a degree as Korea.
See,
because we had the occupation after World War II, but then we kind of stepped back a little bit.
Yeah, and Valagain, I know what you're saying about the hegemony of capitalism, but Korea was totally destroyed after the Korean War. South Korea. North Korea is a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah.
South Korea.
Yeah. Let's just talk about Juche for the next 2 hours. This is just going to be the Juche episode. No.
But South Korea, in terms of just how people act, a lot of the military, U.S. military that get stationed there, call it the land of the not quite right, because you're going along and everything seems very Americanized and very, I don't like to say the word westernized because that has other connotations, but it seems very Americanized in many ways. And then you stumble across something that's very, very Korean and it throws you for a loop because everything up to that point had been so similar to what you're used to. And I experienced that too 20 years later when I went to Korea. When, on the other hand, going to Japan, everything feels foreign across the board.
Huh. Yeah, I actually haven't had a chance to travel much in Asia. I think it's the one. No, I've never been to Asia or South America. I've been to Africa, North America, and Europe.
I've never been out of Europe.
I've never been to Australia.
I was in Turkey.
I have relatives who live in Australia, but I've never actually been to Australia. So I guess I've only been to 3 of the 7 continents. It's not as widely
I've ever
traveled
been
as I thought. But.
Australia, virtually.
Yeah.
I have no interest in going to Australia. It's too hot. Everything wants to murder you, and it's too hot. You can tell which one of that is more important to me. Also, 24-hour flight to get to somewhere that is hell? No.
Yep.
Well, that's the main reason I haven't gone yet, is because usually airfare is so expensive between the U.S. and Australia. I mean, between probably anywhere in Australia, but tickets between the U.S. and Australia are tend to be
I'd love to go to Australia. It'd be great.
Multiple times as expensive as a flight to Europe usually. So,
and about languages also. Sorry, I'm going to bring up Korea again. I know we were just on Australia. One thing that I hear from my husband, who is, of course speaks Korean, is North Korea. You listen to the North Koreans speaking Korean, and the language sounds kind of archaic because they haven't let it change. It hasn't changed with meeting the modern world like South Korea has.
Interesting.
Yeah. North Wales is like that.
Well, in Iceland too, Icelandic. I mean, Icelandic is compared to the other Scandinavian languages very close to Old Norse because they've just been living on an island without a ton of contact with the outside world for so long that they've preserved a lot of the really, really complicated grammar rules, which include gender noun rules in Icelandic. From Old Norse that most of the other Scandinavian languages are you know what? We're just going to toss that. That's it's just a little bit too much to have to remember for us. So, it is interesting to see within language families that kind of branched off from a common ancestor, which ones stay closer to what came before and which ones innovate more. I think it's Lithuanian, I believe. Maybe someone in chat will correct me if I'm wrong. Is believed to be the Indo-European language that is the closest to ancient, like Proto-Indo-European. It's changed the least since we brought our cows and our chariots out of the Caucasus Mountains or whatever,
Isn't
the current hypothesis
I think
is.
American English is like that too, right? It's like a lot of the stuff like American.
Our pronunciation is actually
and
our pronunciation is how British English pronunciation was. Because y'all didn't used to do that with the R's.
I've never seen anyone provide any evidence. It's just something that Americans are told.
No, the H's and the R's people started doing that to be cool or whatever in the middle of the 1800s. It was a fad and it caught on.
Yeah. Yeehaw, I'm off down the saloon.
Don't know about the rest, but the whole way y'all say H's.
Everybody in England in the year 1100 sounded like a cowboy. That's just a fact.
Exactly.
That's just a fact.
I'm sorry, I don't believe you.
Tanya just said that you're wrong, Lambert.
I'm sure it won't be the only thing I'm wrong on, and I'm going to continue being wrong.
I think like your accent is actually closer to like Middle English than received pronunciation would be as well. Like I think the countryside accents are more like, from the impression that I get is that the countryside accents, the Midlands and Northern accents, and even like Irish English have preserved more of the pronunciation features of Middle English than
That's going to taint my view of like English medieval people forever. Like just imagining like a fucking Scouser peasant.
Well, I mean, like one of the ways we can tell, a lot of people ask this question is like, how do you know what a language no one speaks anymore actually sounded like?
Look at the poetry.
Sound like Scousers.
Exactly. It's looking at poetry and looking at which words rhymed when this was written. Assuming that they're a good poet and they're not just like stretching the definition of a rhyme, which, I mean, Shakespeare, I think most people would consider a fairly reliable source for, rhymes. But yeah, even like ancient Chinese, they've been kind of able to figure out what it sounded like based on some poetry. It's really interesting stuff. Check out the channel Native Lang on YouTube. It's Nativ. There's no E, and then Lang.
I like his channel.
Yeah, he has a few great videos on like how do we know what dead languages sounded like, how do we know what classical Latin sounded like, and gets into some of the geeky academic linguistics of it.
So that's like a warning to modern poets, like make your poems rhyme, otherwise you're fucking over future linguists.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we have enough recorded audio now that people will know what we sounded like, but
Shakespeare really isn't Middle English.
What is that?
Shakespeare is not really Middle English. Chaucer is Middle English.
You're right. Yeah, early modern English is. You are 100% correct to call me out on that. Yeah.
Like, have you ever tried to read Chaucer?
Yeah. I have, and actually knowing German and Norwegian and a little bit of Icelandic makes it a lot easier because a lot of the features we don't have in modern English that did exist in Middle English are like recognizably like German. So, yeah.
The best representation of Chaucer in any form of media is clearly Chaucer from A Knight's Tale, played by Paul Bettany.
Oh, yeah.
Just sublime. No.
And the thing is, he actually did disappear for like 2 or 3 years. We don't know what he was doing, so it's entirely plausible he was helping Heath Ledger achieve his goals.
I actually knew the person who did the camera work on that movie. Fun fact, friend of mine actually. Yeah. There's my name calling. That's the best name. What's it called? Name drop I could ever manage. I knew the guy who did the camera work on A Knight's Tale.
Nice.
Awesome. One of my little favorite geeky things about early modern English is this was actually something my high school English teacher pointed out to me. And then my German teacher in college pointed it out separately in as an illustration of the relationship between German and English. we still had some gendered nouns in Shakespeare's time. There's a line in, I think it's Hamlet, where they say, the party she is ruined. They refer to the party as a she, which if you speak German, die Party is a feminine noun. And it's like, yeah, that also used to be a feminine noun in English when we still had noun genders.
Oh, we still have like a few, like ships, for example.
But that's more cultural kind of at this point.
We do still have one gendered adjective that we use in English on an everyday basis, even today, to this day in 2020, and it's blonde. If you were referring to if you're referring to a male subject, it is blond. If you are referring to a female subject, it is blonde, and that is like in the Oxford Dictionary. That is still correct English. It is, as far as I know, the only gendered adjective we still have that's in common usage.
I don't know it.
Actor, actress, although I guess they're kind of removing that or trying to.
Fiancé.
Yeah, fiance versus fiance. I feel like everyone just says fiance now. Like I feel like
it's pretty much died out.
I've never heard of fiance, and I have been one.
Yeah, I think the female version has just become the default now. But yeah, that is technically also correct English. So
I definitely heard Beyonce
on
too.
On the screen, if anyone wants to attempt it, we have some lovely bit of the Canterbury Tales.
Well, let me see. It's kind of blurry for me. Let me see if I can refresh the stream.
Yeah, imagine that in Scouse.
Okay, let me see. A cook they had with him for the knowness to boil. No, I'm not.
That's the worst Scouse
accent. A cook they had with them for the nuns to boil the chickens with the Mary bones. And
well, you gotta get the on the end there. To boil. They still pronounce the
a daughter of the London Ale? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. He could roost and seeth and broil and fry, make Mortrix as well, bake a pie. That's it. I'm done.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, is it? Hey.
Have any of y'all seen the book The Wake?
No. What is that?
So he went and wrote it. It's set during the William the Conqueror's invasion in 1066. And it's written as if it's from that time period. Hold on. I don't know how much to show. Let's see if I can find just a free excerpt of it. But it's there's no capital letters. There's no punctuation.
I hate it already.
It's like my dissertation.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, or like all those like those old like Gothic Latin manuscripts where you have to like guess where the paragraph or the sentence ends and stuff. Yeah. Comedy says, I like how far away this tangent has strayed from EU4.
In fact, we've got one dev diary to speak about. We got to do some tangents. All this podcast would be over.
Discussing history.
You can form Siam now. That's a new cool thing. There we go.
There's also a dev diary that you can basically there's a focus on vassalization.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's going to be a sort of like Aztec type mechanic for
vassalization and building up capital mega cities. They said are going to be focuses for the region, which. There were certainly some like big ass mega cities in the region during this time period. So, yeah.
I just the word mega city makes me cringe. I hate it. Hate it.
When was Singapore founded? Was it in this?
I'm sure it might just be. It'll probably be just part of the missions, because that's sort of the way that these kind of things are pushed. But like, it's gonna be like. Get your capital to this development to finish this mission. And it's just going to be like, save up some fucking mana points and click, click, click. Yay, I did it.
I hope it's not just through missions. I hope it's something like the Aztec mechanic, something actually integrated into the gameplay.
For the vassals part, yeah. But to create these, what do they call them? The development of capital super cities. Please let that hint at some kind of rework to development. It's not. I know it isn't. It's far too late to get rid of development, but please do it anyway, because the game is so much better if you don't have that.
I can't believe Lambert does not like a new feature that involves development and monarch power.
All right, but here you go. This is
change trade as well.
Back on our previous tangents.
Yeah, go ahead, Rose.
So this is an excerpt from The Wake. It is available. The preview is available on Amazon. So it is copyrighted material. Fair, just to show how Old English was, or how this writer interpreted it. Paul Kingsnorth. The night was clear, though I slept, I seen it. Though I slept, I seen the calm here, not only the still. When I gone down to sleep, all was clear in the land, and my dreams was full of stillness, but my dreams did not set me still. You could just...
Yeah. It sounds like a standard night out on the town. Talking to someone you just met. Honestly, this is perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
It's much more understandable if you read it out loud. Tried reading it in my head. Nope.
Yeah, well, like a lot of the spellings actually seem more accurate to how we actually say them.
Yeah.
Today, so yeah.
The words cold come. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
the wind is not for the hopes of men.
Now, if you pull up some proper old English, like some Beowulf, I could probably read that fairly easily. But yeah.
Only if you do it in a Scouse accent.
Who is Thu? Yeah, that is proper old school.
Another really good resource, and this is, in my opinion, the best thing that this particular book has done for the world. The Bible, because it's been translated and updated so many times, we've got basically a history of the way English has been written out, knowing exactly what it's meant to say from back when it was first translated into English. When was that? Before the Hussites, wasn't it?
The first one would be the Tyndale Bible. Was the first translation.
From then all the way up until the modern day, every variation of English in between that has been recorded through, new Bibles. Which is, I mean, that's pretty valuable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's still like some of the best English. Like the King James Bible, I think is still the best one. Represent King James Bible Club.
Right.
I don't have a Bible in my house. Represent.
I don't think I have one either.
Represent gang.
Funny enough, I might still have the one that I bought for my medieval history class in college, which is, I think it's the New International Version.
Yeah, rubbish.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Get your King James back.
Yeah, that's where I went wrong, is by reading any version that wasn't the King James Version.
Exactly.
Clearly.
Anyway, anything else about EU4 before we move on from our one?
I thought we already had moved on.
We kind of have, but like,
I think
does anybody else have anything to say about the Dev Diary? Or
I wish the images weren't blurry.
Yeah,
they're not for me. I think you need to sign in, and then it'll give you non-blurry images.
Like if I click on them to like open it in a new tab, it's full resolution. But in the actual Dev Diary, they're very blurry.
Yeah, I think you just need to sign in.
That's probably why. Oh, and I had it open in NoCB.
Kind of a nitpick, but I mentioned on Twitter they changed Laotian to Lao, so it seems like they're trying to go with what these people would have actually called themselves versus what Western people have called them. So I think we should probably get rid of Cantonese. It should be like something like Guangdong if you were actually going with the actual Chinese name that like Cantonese speaking people call their own language. But
which they've done that for CK2 with the localized names and everything.
Right.
They should do it for EU4.
Is what we've added as Westerners? Is it the ease? Because then, like Vietnamese, would that also fall into that category?
Yeah.
Burmese,
I guess so. Yeah. I guess
Korea was called it was referred to by the dynasty, the Joseon.
Yeah.
Korea actually comes from the word Goryeo, which is one of the three kingdoms. from, long before modern day.
Hey, get ready to drink your water. In Maine, Texas, it's called Joseon.
And even modern day Korea is called Hanguk.
Yeah, it's weird to learn that the thing we have called the country for our entire lives is not actually what they call themselves.
I mean, the biggest example of that is Germany, of course.
And we were talking some about discrimination and such last week.
Yeah.
So there's a term that's used that's a derogatory term used towards Asians, primarily Koreans, in the U.S. I'd actually never heard it here on the East Coast. I'm assuming it's more common on the West Coast. But it's based on the fact that in Korean, the word guk means people. And so they call themselves Hangukin. Americans are Migukins. So TJ, you and I are Migukin.
Korea, is it? I thought it was from the Vietnamese War for some reason.
No, that's Korean.
We probably continued to use that term during the Vietnam War because we didn't really distinguish between different cultures on separate ends of the same continent. So, but China's another one. In China, they call their country Zhongguo. They don't call it China. So
Finland in Finnish is Suomi.
It touches on a concern that I might have had with the Dev Diary and how, we've obviously added a lot more development to the area. And how will that impact, the interaction with Europe? So there's going to be a much more powerful states in Southeast Asia now. Yeah, especially when it comes to the island of Singapore and the Dutch colonization.
Right? Can you charter colonies with Southeast Asian nations, or is that specific to India?
Yeah,
okay,
you can. But I
don't
think
that's in a trade company.
I don't think charter companies are a very good system in my experience.
No, it's actually terrible. It is beyond awful. If you're playing as say you're playing as Vijayanagar, you are conquering India, you're about to finish it and form Bharat, and what's this? There's another province here that I could have sworn that Bengal used to own this. Oh, it's owned by the Papal State. That's exactly, a thing, is it? I have to go to war with the Papal State to get one province. They're allied to France. Yep, all F4, fuck this.
It's always like one province too. It's the other thing, and it's not really a single country. It's always like a huge range of countries.
Yeah.
Whereas the colonization that happened in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, was generally the Dutch and Portuguese grabbing lots and lots of shit, which doesn't really happen in EU4 much.
Also, have they mentioned why they programmed the Mamluk AI to, if they don't get killed by the Ottomans, they just go crazy with colonization? Did the Mamluk Sultanate actually have any designs on, colonizing the world?
It's just standard behavior of, how do I make my country powerful? I need to conquer upstream of me so I can pull that wealth, steal that wealth from upstream and pull it into my stream. So they go upstream and they'll try and take, the Red Sea, then they'll go wherever that leads to, Indonesia, into India. That's what they'll try and go for.
Yeah, they owned all of Australia in the one game of 1.30 that I've actually played to the end date.
Yeah, honestly, past a certain date, I just don't want to look at Asia because I hate the entire mechanic of, let me just buy your province. Hate it.
How would you, so here's a question. How would you better model that interaction between the Europeans and the Indian subcontinent? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I actually do. I think it's quite simple. Okay. You have a system whereby, say you are playing in India and the Portuguese come to you looking for a trade port in Goa, which happened historically. You would still own the province of Goa, but there would be a province modifier on it with a little Portuguese flag saying that one of these cities is controlled by the Portuguese. You'll be able to, kick them out somehow. And that would give you some benefits. It would give the Portuguese some trade power in your region. Trade would obviously need to be changed so it wasn't shit, but that's another situation entirely. And that way you could have your entire country looking like your country, as it should. But then some of your provinces may have individual cities that are owned by different states, and you'd get little benefits from each of them. And potentially these Europeans that have these cities could get, claims on those on those provinces if they wanted to expand their influence in the region.
So almost similar to the trade port post mechanics in CK2 The Republic, almost.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That would work way better.
But Europeans never seem to expand into India. You never get like East India Company.
Well, they'll buy provinces.
Yeah, they just don't expand province. They just don't expand it, which is a problem, right?
Because they declare war before bringing their troops over. So by the time they get their boats and their troops over, their only province there has already been sieged, and they're trying to do a hostile landing, and then they could have 20 transports and they'd bring over 5 men. It's like it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I guess it doesn't apply as much to Southeast Asia because obviously lots of those Thailand obviously was untouched by colonialism, and most of it, Southeast Asia was basically untouched by colonialism in this time period, apart from Singapore Island, which we don't know.
Thailand and Ethiopia, I believe, are the only large modern nation states that have never been colonized.
No,
Ethiopia was semi-occupied by the Italians during World War II, but it wasn't ever actually colonized. So
no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Ethiopia's had a tough run the past few hundred years.
Yeah.
And they were such a great, powerful kingdom for a while.
They put up a pretty damn good fight, to be fair to the Ethiopians. When the rest of Africa was not the best.
Yeah.
Putting it incredibly mildly.
Not a great point in human history, I have to say. Scramble of Africa, but Ethiopia, fair play.
Yeah, China, people in chat are saying Iran might be another one. China and Japan. I mean, China was partly colonized.
Didn't the Austrians have a big whole chunk of it?
Didn't the Austrians conquer half of mainland China? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, no.
I mean, you could. Are we talking about just European colonization? Because we could just talk about the Qing. That's kind of colonizing from the Manchu in the north.
Kind of, yeah. It's yeah.
I didn't so much colonize, to be honest. They kind of like most people who take the English throne, they tend to adapt to the culture of the Manchus, so they're kind of the same. They just
and then Japan was occupied by the U.S. for quite a while, and only fairly recently, are
well, they're still not allowed to have a military.
Yeah, move back towards getting some of the privileges back that they were specifically forbidden from having after World War II, which is that's its whole other own can of worms that I'm not educated enough to really go into is modern Japanese politics and nationalism and militarism in Japan in the modern day. So maybe I'll have
their relationships with China or Korea, places they conquered.
Yeah, and
that's not something I know much about.
I know about the myriad of insults that.
I do know it's interesting. A lot of Koreans are not happy with Japan. They don't like Japan.
No,
but they happily visit Japan as tourists and like Japanese food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting dynamic.
It's a complicated one.
For sure. So to move on to something a little bit less complicated, since we don't have a ton of actual dev diaries to talk about. Yeah, I thought we would kind of share some stories of what we've been up to in our own time lately with some of these games that we enjoy. I'm actually curious, Rose, were you able to get much gaming done at all, after giving birth, or was that like something where you
my computer was off
back into it?
I turned my computer off on May 7th, so the night before I went to the hospital for the C-section. It didn't get turned on again until like the last week of May.
Okay,
my computer I was on my cell phone the whole time. If I was online.
What was like the first thing you went back to, like once you finally started to ease back into it?
Let's see. I tried loading up some EU4 because that was right after Emperor came out, and I did get early access to that, but I just didn't have much time. So I did load it up and look around. Then I streamed, but before that I streamed Crusader Kings.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And then a Sims 4 DLC came out. Oh, and there was Rosebud. You heard him.
Hello. Welcome to the podcast.
He was just repositioning. Yeah.
Our youngest guest so far.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so some Sims 4 and CK2. Actually, it's easier to do YouTube videos than it is to stream right now.
Yeah, there's definitely like less pressure to be like in performance mode when I'm recording something offline, as opposed to, if I'm trying to entertain people who are actually there at that moment.
But, also with recording, if he 20 minutes in, he wakes up and is fussy and needs me to get up and walk around and calm him down again. Then I can just pause the recording. I feel really bad pausing a stream for 5 to 10 minutes so I can walk around.
Yeah.
I love that you can now pause OBS recordings. It's fantastic. It cuts down so much editing time.
Oh, I didn't even know you could do that. That would be useful.
Oh, it's glorious.
Yeah. I'm slowly learning, because I took like a year and a half break from streaming, and now it's like everybody has gifts that pop up when they get subscribes or follows, and I don't know how any of this works. And so thanks to Level 39 Nerd, who is now our intrepid chat mod over on the Lore Sworn Order channel. I don't know if he's here right now, but he's been helping me figure out some of that.
You just called Rosebud the youngest cast member.
Oh, yeah, he is here. Yeah. So big shout out to Level 39 Nerd, because I don't know how any of this stuff works yet. So what adventures have you gotten up to in CK2 since returning to the land of the living, Rose?
Well, did a Monarch's Journey, which reminded me how broken Horse Lords are in Crusader Kings 2.
Mm-hmm.
Fun, but broken. So broken. And then also I had something very interesting happen earlier this week when I was playing around in Iceland. My female ruler seduced a eunuch, made him her lover, and then later she got pregnant and was like, oops, will my husband know? And he was her only lover. And she hadn't seduced anyone recently. I really wonder how her eunuch got her pregnant.
Yeah, that's a little bit iffy. Either Satan was involved or there was a third party.
Or both. I think maybe Satan was the third party.
Maybe Satan was the third party, yeah. As Agamede says, life finds a way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He had some frog DNA injected into him. Yeah. Because frogs don't need a dangly bit. It's just a cloaca, and the cloaca kind of serves multiple purposes. So
yeah.
That's
birds
true.
that have the cloaca, not bloody frogs.
No, amphibians do too.
Yeah. Really?
No, frogs
true.
have a cloaca. Yeah.
He could have avoided the snip. I mean, I think there was a case where a Chinese empress, her lover was disguised as a eunuch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah,
that was a thing. Yeah, I forgot my name of the emperor. Yeah, that's a thing.
I've been doing quite a lot of battle with eunuchs lately, because I was playing some more Total War 3 Kingdoms. I got back into that because Warhammer 2 is so buggy right now. Like, the beta patch even has bugs that are worse than the bugs that it fixed. So and they have no ETA on when either version is gonna actually be fixed. So
there was a weapon strength percentage bug that people were going.
Yeah, weapon strength in Warhammer 2 just currently doesn't apply to anything when you have a weapon equipped.
Well, that breaks the orcs significantly. That's like their whole thing with the war.
But then the beta patch, which fixes that bug, has another bug where a bunch of the stuff that is supposed to happen upon battle resolution after manually fighting a battle just does not happen. So if you're playing as Greenskins or Norska and you defeat the leader of a confederatable faction, I think I just invented a word. I'm basically Shakespeare. They won't actually confederate. You heard it here
first, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you mean. When you kill their leader, you're supposed to be able to federate.
Yeah, they won't actually confederate, and then also, like, if you would have earned a commander ability from something that happened during that battle, they won't get that ability. Like, right. Yeah, it's actually, the beta patch is somehow worse broken than the live version is.
I right now, I haven't played Total War 1 or 2 in a while. My go-to right now for Total War is Rome 2 with the Divide et Impera mod. That is fantastic. That is just like the tip-top of what Total War can and should be. There's some problems with it that is mostly down to Total Warisms. But yeah, I'm really enjoying playing with the DEI.
Yeah, DEI has always been awesome.
A grand strategy game that has population mechanics is just right up my street.
Yeah, DEI and Steel Faith Overhaul are some of the best strategy game mods probably of all time. So
for Total Wars, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Darth Mod back in the day before he went on to do Ultimate General was really good, but other people have kind of picked up that torch.
Those are two of the best ones. To have a look at Ultimate General and Ultimate Admiral. I haven't looked at them yet.
I mean, Ultimate General Gettysburg is very good. Ultimate General Civil War, I think, flew a little too close to the sun. Like, the campaign didn't really end up coming together the way that it should have. And I haven't played Ultimate Admiral, but Ultimate General Gettysburg is very good. I did put it on my list of top 15 strategy games of all time. So,
yeah, it's a big part of strategy games for me is being able to relate to the countries that I'm playing. At least that's how I get into them. Like, for instance, with EU4, the first country I played was England. Same with CK2. And for Imperator, the first one I played was Rome, because I was familiar with Rome. With Ultimate General, I don't really have any connection to either side. I mean, I guess I do have a connection to the guys that don't like slavery. I probably should have worded that better. You understand that the U.S. Civil War had nothing to do with me, so I would say I didn't have that connection. I didn't have the familiarity, let's say, because I've never learned about the U.S. Civil War. That's never come up in any of my schooling.
Yeah, I mean, we learn about the Civil War over here. I don't know if it was the same where you went to school, Rose, but when I went to school in Kansas, there was a lot of kind of both sidesism that, like, today I don't think would fly in terms of, like, you know, the South, they had slavery, but, you know, the average Confederate soldier was probably, you know, not a bad person, and, you know, like,
I got that in Florida.
Okay. Well, okay. So you were properly in the South when.
Well, don't tell it. No. South Florida. The farthest I was in South Florida for part of it. You go to South Florida, it's kind of like the North.
Because it's got a much higher, like, Hispanic and Latino population down there, right? Like.
Yeah.
North Florida. My grandpa was actually born in Tallahassee. He didn't live there for most of his life, but that seems like North Florida looks more like the Deep South. Miami very much seems more like more related to the Caribbean in some ways culturally.
Yeah, I've only been to Miami, and literally we drove to the port.
Yeah.
And got on a cruise ship. Spent a couple of years living in Orlando and then a year in Tampa. But the rest of my time in Florida has been in the Redneck Riviera, which you may know as the Florida Panhandle.
There you go. Yeah.
Redneck Riviera.
That's a really good description, actually.
I mean, the beaches are gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing that is in Kansas specifically, where I went to high school, a lot of what we learned about the Civil War was specifically about the Bleeding Kansas conflict, because Kansas and Missouri still don't like each other, and they still talk about Quantrell's raid, and they still, KU's football team or KU's sports teams are the Jayhawks, which are, the pro abolitionist militias basically in Kansas when it was a free state and Missouri was a slave state. So
isn't there one state that captured a Confederate flag and still has it, and they keep being asked to have it returned, and I was like, no.
It's Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota. I think at the Minnesota volunteers at the Battle of if Searow, man, from our longtime viewer was in chat, he'd be able to tell me this because he knows. I think he knows that history.
It's just obviously with the whole thing about Confederate flags recently in the US being all over everyone's news. Like, that's just one story that I heard that I was like, go on, you keep it. Tell them to fuck off.
Well, yeah, because the response, I think, from Minnesota was basically, you say this flag represents your heritage. To us, it represents, the brave Minnesotans who died, fighting against the institution of slavery. Yeah, it was definitely, as Dr. Vickle in chat says, an extreme Chad move. So, yeah. PO8CRG says, a governor once said something along the lines of, we won it in battle. If they want it back, they know what to do. Yeah. So, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I love Minnesota.
That's the one example of a Confederate flag that I'm totally fine with seeing waved very high then. Preferably just in sight of, what's the other state called again?
The other state?
Yeah, which one's the Confederate state?
There's 49 other ones.
No, I know the one that wants the flag.
Oh, I think it was. I want to say it was
Mississippi,
maybe Alabama. Maybe Alabama or Mississippi. I don't know.
They should have it on a flagpole just in sight of the other one. It's like, it's right there. You can't have it. Get fucked.
That's Minnesota and Mississippi are pretty far away from each other.
Yeah, you'd have to raise it really high. It would need to be.
You'd have to send it to space.
Yeah. Look, there's about maybe half a dozen states in the US that I can point out on a map.
Yeah, Minnesota is on the Canadian border, and then Alabama and Mississippi are on the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a pretty long way. Yeah,
a really big flagpole. I don't know.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's Alabama, Mississippi down here by the Redneck Riviera. Yeah. They even have a bit of the Redneck Riviera themselves. And then we got Minnesota up here on the Canada border.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're quite far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know from about Iowa to the Redneck Riviera is about a 2-day drive.
Yeah, depending on traffic and everything. I can do Denver to Kansas City in 8 or 9 hours if I'm booking it, and if there's not too much highway construction on I-70, which is almost never. They're almost always tearing up some part of I-70, but I've made that drive several times. I've actually done Kansas City to San Francisco in one day, and it was 23 hours without sleep, and I don't recommend anyone ever do that ever.
No.
Because it was a very bad idea.
American.
Yeah, just this past February, my husband and I drove from New York to Atlanta nonstop, pretty much overnight.
Ugh, yeah,
and I was 7 months pregnant.
That's a good long trek for you. Yeah.
Get a train. Obviously, first create a rail system that isn't shit, but get a train.
Yeah. Oh, I wish if there were trains.
Yeah, if we had like a working passenger rail system in this country, that would be great. If Amtrak weren't a total joke, and if they would actually put money into public transportation instead of just making everything based around car culture, I would be all for that.
And technically, you could take a train.
To Helsinki, because it's like it's a 6-hour train ride there. Obviously, taking into account like the stop-offs and the getting on to a different track because we're not next to one of the big hubs. But that's like a 6-hour, set off in the morning, arrive there at 6 hours later, and that annoys me. I couldn't do. Oh, I need to go and visit the parents. Let me just drive for 23 hours. Fuck that.
That's why people.
How's the master in chat says rails good, car bad? I absolutely agree. Mm-hmm. I do like driving. I do have that like American stereotype that like I enjoy the act of driving. I actually enjoy road trips, but socially and economically and environmentally, trains are much better.
Fuck me! I like driving. Steam trains. Bring the steam trains back. They go choo choo. They look really cool. Oh man,
my son would be in favor of that. He loves trains.
You're talking about trains, Lambert.
Steam train.
It was like a 15-hour drive from New York to Atlanta. You want to take a train? It's basically 18 hours direct.
What?
Because they haven't been updated in almost 100 years.
If you don't own a car, like a lot of times, especially in the middle of the country, the best way to get from place to place is like a Greyhound bus. And like you get on there and like it smells like vomit, and like you might be sitting next to like an actual dead person. You never know. Like it's not a very good experience, is what I'm getting at.
It's like the buses that you see in movies where the kid runs away from home.
Yes.
See, I get a similar experience whenever I go in the car. So
I rode a Greyhound from.
There was a dead body on the passenger seat. It smells of vomit for some reason. It's all the time. Every time.
Yeah, I like driving, but short trips, not just keeping your foot planted to the floor while you're going across, or if you're lucky enough to have what's called the one where you just press the button and it keeps the speed.
Cruise control.
Cruise control. That's the word I'm looking for. My next car is
cruise control is so necessary.
Yeah, I actually
that's boring.
Drove for the first time with cruise control the other week. Oh my goodness, it's great. It's like driving for dummies. Just press a button.
That 18-hour train ride. Here we go. It's showing 20 hours on Google in 15 minutes. 13 and a half hours by car and 866 miles.
Yeah, sounds about right. You're gonna have to change modes of transportation multiple times in that process. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. They have you go this way.
Flights from $35. That's kind of crazy though. Like the fact that nobody's using air travel right now.
Yeah, the $35 one is you're strapped to the outside of a biplane.
Yeah, no, we're just
on the other side.
We're gonna put wings. Yeah, we're gonna put big wings on your arms and launch you out of a catapult. That's the $35 option.
Even Delta is $77 round trip right now. They're usually like $300 for a ticket to
the funny thing is when I was in Iceland, they told me that is actually the best way to get between like Reykjavik and Akureyri usually is
between what?
Between Reykjavik and Akureyri, which is the big it's not big. It's the second biggest city in Iceland, which is to say it's a village basically.
No, I know what it's called. It's just your pronunciation was funny.
How would you pronounce it?
I have no idea. It's just yours was funny. I'm not gonna add to the hilarity.
Akureyri, I believe. Yeah, it is a weird name. It doesn't actually sound.
I would probably say Akure, but that's also probably wrong. It just doesn't sound as funny.
Akaviri.
Yeah, Akavir. Yeah, if you want to get to Akavir, it's really best to take the Icelandic domestic airline. Yeah.
Well, here, if you really want to get to Atlanta, fly from LaGuardia Airport in New York to Fort Lauderdale, stay there for 7.5 hours, and then fly on to Atlanta.
No. Funnily enough.
That's also, they have that little no baggage symbol here because even when the airlines are suffering, they still want to charge us extra for.
Well, that's Spirit, which we know is a budget airline.
Yeah,
it's like right.
Delta doesn't have that symbol.
Trip, but luggage costs £800.
Since this is ostensibly a grand strategy podcast, Loris, what have you been getting up to lately in your gaming time?
To be honest, I haven't played much grand strategy lately. I've been playing Sea of Thieves, so.
There you go.
To talk about.
You're strategizing there, right?
Yeah,
there's strategy involved.
Pissing around with a boat with my friends. That's about it. That's all I've been doing.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Lambert? Have you gotten up to anything crazy lately in the strategy world?
In the strategy world, not really. I've been playing a bit of Rome 2. Most of my
Total War Rome 2?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with the DEI mod that I mentioned, it's really good. But most of my gaming in the past couple of weeks has been party games. The Steam sale was pretty good to me for those kind of games. So stuff like Super Bunny Man and Stick Fight and played a bit of Dead by Daylight because it's not really a party game, but whatever. Yeah, that's what I've been playing quite a lot recently.
I actually bought Dead by Daylight 2. I haven't played it yet, but my younger sister is really into it. And it's, seems like kind of a cool idea. So I'll probably check that out at some point. Yeah, I've been playing quite a bit of 1.30 in EU4. I'm doing a Brittany run on stream right now on Sundays over on Lore Sworn Order, but I did an offline game as Congo that was ended up being one of my favorite campaigns ever because I united the Congo River Basin, and then I one by one just kicked all of the colonizers out of southern Africa, and there was a war where I was at war with United Scandinavia, Denmark actually had formed Scandinavia, Spain, and Portugal, and who else? There was one other major European nation, and we just used forts and hostile attrition and just defeating them in detail, and we basically fought off half of Europe with no allies. I did have a small vassal swarm going. I highly recommend that if you're playing in the Congo region. Keep a little of those Rwanda and Burundi and some of those smaller nations around as vassals, and then take influence ideas because they'll boost your force limit and give you lots of money. Spain had all of South Africa. I completely kicked them out of South Africa. I occupied everything, and then we just held them off. And then the final big war that started in 1806 was against Portugal because they still owned a lot of Tanzania and Malawi and kind of that area over by Kilwa over there. And we built an armada and went and blockaded Lisbon and defeated the entire Portuguese fleet. I put on all of the policies that improve your navy or whatever. And yeah, it was the Spanish Armada, but it was the Congolese Armada, and we defeated Portugal.
So it wasn't like the Spanish Armada, which had a tendency to sink.
Yes, it was like the Spanish Armada, except if it didn't suck. And yeah, so we occupied all their African provinces, blockaded Lisbon, and just won the war, and it was glorious. Also, the revolution spawned in Luoyang in Ming, and then Ming crushed it. So I still haven't really gotten to see what the new revolution mechanics are like because it spawned dead in the middle of China and was over before it was able to spread out of China. So, yeah.
There's another. I did play a little bit of EU4 as well. I've been playing a bit with the 1356 mod. Basically just rolls the time back to 1356, which is a much more interesting start date, in my opinion. And so I've been playing a bit as Byzantium, naturally. Played a bit as Serbia as well. And so yeah, I also haven't seen the new revolution mechanics because, I mean, I get close to it and then I was like, okay, I'm too powerful. I'm now bored. let's start a new game. And now it's going to be even more difficult because I rolled the game back another 100 years, and it's going to be even harder to get there.
You just don't want to see revolution.
You know what? You're right.
I think there's a little bit of saltiness there.
No. You know what? If you want to go and guillotine your kings, that's cool and all. Just don't try and force your guillotine on other countries. Don't try and conquer Europe. And we're just gonna stop you. Don't try and stop people from trading with us because we had a bigger fleet than you, and fucked you up in the Nile and Trafalgar, and just fucked Napoleon. Basically, it's just the way of things, really. He's a loyal subject of the Queen. Damn fucking right.
How's a master who just had to leave, so he might have to hear this on SoundCloud later, but he's asking, what is your first campaign in 1.31 going to be? He's saying his is going to be, or they, I don't know gender, but they say Tidor probably. I had a really good YouTube series where I played as Ayutthaya and formed the Great Thai Dynasty and seized the Mandate of Heaven, so I might try to do something like that again. So...
Whenever a new patch comes out, I normally play whatever interacts with them more than the actual nation themselves. So I'll probably play China or the Dutch or the Portuguese or something.
Yeah.
I would say, I'll play Ayutthaya because I like playing as them, but I haven't liked playing as anyone in Asia since the patch came out that let the Europeans just buy provinces willy-nilly. So...
Too bad there's not a mod just to turn that feature off.
Destroys that function, and then I'll play probably Ayutthaya.
Lambert, are you sure there's not a mod that just turns that feature off?
Probably, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna quickly go and scan.
So if someone does know of that mod or makes one, ping NoCB cast on Twitter and let us know.
What's the feature called? It's like.
I think it's Charter Company.
Just search for Charter. No Charter companies. Yep, it's there. Is it updated?
There you go. Modders to the rescue. There you go.
Modders are always to the rescue. They're beautiful people.
Now you can go play in Asia.
Yay. Ayutthaya. Or Jaunpur. I like Jaunpur as well. And Mewar.
They're fun.
Mewar is always great.
Mewar is one of my favorite nations in the entire game.
Yeah, they got a fun mission tree that isn't massively overpowered.
Yeah.
Their ideas are... They make up for that by being massively overpowered.
Yeah.
Their
estates
really
are cool.
Fun.
Yeah, their estates are cool. They can get those Rajput regiments. Yeah.
Really good in the late game as well with their fire bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't they nerf them recently, didn't they? Didn't they nerf them with either Emperor or whatever came before Emperor?
I don't recall. I think the last time I played a significant game in India was 1.28. So yeah, I don't know. Rose, what do you think you're gonna be itching to play when the 1.31 update comes out, based on what we know so far?
I'm probably try and play someone that goes over there to colonize. I have a soft spot for Portugal. I mean, I know you sunk their fleet, but
Portugal is a lot of fun. They really are. I mean, they're a poster child nation in EU4 for a reason. So,
and they're still probably the biggest nation that I have never played. 5,000 hours, never touched Portugal.
I like the fact that you can kind of ignore Europe to a point and just sort of go out and colonize and explore and.
Yeah. So I think those are the most fun nations to play. The Dutch and Britain are kind of the same like that.
I feel like I've said this before, but if you're wanting to play a colonial game, play as Castile, ally France. You no longer need to worry about Europe ever. Kill Portugal. Now you're pretty much uncontested for 50 to 100 years in the New World. Have fun.
Yeah, but Portugal is a bit of a steeper climb, so you don't snowball so fast.
Mm.
Yeah, it also seems like in 1.30, the Holland and England get to colonizing a little bit faster than they used to. France, not so much, but I've seen Holland get some colonies in the first half of the 1500s, which used to almost never happen. So
the difference there, though, is England being Anglican and Holland being either Protestant or Reformed usually, they're not going to get the Pope being like, oh, yeah, you can have this. So who cares?
Yeah.
Portugal and Castile are always going to be fighting with the Treaty of Tordesillas. And it's really fucking annoying when it's like, all right, I'll take a bit of the Caribbean, and while I've done this, Portugal has gone and taken something that he can't even pull into his own node. So fuck me, I guess. It's like, it just annoys me.
Yeah, I kind of like it just because it kind of feels like it makes me develop my colonies a little bit more logically.
I don't think I've ever spent mana on developing a colony ever.
Not like development in terms of capital D development, the mechanic, but like in terms of where I choose to colonize. It's like, okay, I'm going to get the 5 best trade provinces that have not already been taken in the Caribbean. And then I'm going to do the same thing in Guyana. And then I'm going to do the same thing in Eastern America. Then I'm going to do the same thing in Mexico. And like, if Spain has already claimed the Treaty of Tordesillas for like Amazonas by then, I'm like, I would guess I just won't bother with that one. Like, I'll just stick to the ones that the Pope has granted to me.
My favorite colonization game was playing as the Dutch. And I was being very... I didn't want to do too much expansion in Europe. It was mostly about colonization. Although I did conquer the entire British Isles, but that's by the by. Look, English Channel, man, what can you do?
Yeah.
So, like I say, I had just very neat-looking European holdings, and then I owned all of the Americas and Africa, and a little bit of, places in Southeast Asia, and it was a pretty good run. That was quite fun. But I was never massively strong because, my continental holdings were very minor. Like the British conquest came much later because they didn't like me for being better than them at colonizing, so they had to die. But like France hated me, Germany hated me, so they were always like fighting me. So I always had to be very careful. I was never snowballed to the point where the game was boring, which is a big problem, I feel, with Paradox games. When you get that snowball rolling, it's not fun anymore. So having that limit to your power in a certain region is, I think, it makes the game a lot better.
Yeah. I think that it's gotten a little bit, EU4 specifically has gotten a little bit better about that, and that I feel like I don't hit that snowball point usually until maybe like 1740-ish. Like, it's usually late enough in the game that it's like, okay, if I want to just quit now because I'm too strong, I feel like I kind of got what I wanted out of, this challenge.
That's a late time to snowball.
I tend to start as smaller nations, so that might be part of it. Like, starting as France, you might hit that point a lot earlier, or as the Ottomans, where you could basically, the Ottomans, you can become the uncontested master of the world in like 100 years if you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Well, away from EU4, we have a question from chat. TJ, was snowballing a problem in CK3?
Not early on, just because everybody or almost everybody is locked into partition succession at that point. So you can't snowball that much because you're going to be spending the first part of every new generation beating up your siblings to reunite your kingdom. I don't know later on if it might be, I didn't play further than 100 years in on any of the campaigns I did. But also, I feel like it's going to be not as much of a concern because of how like marriage alliances work now and how internal politics work now. Like, there's a lot more room for smaller nations to be a credible military threat against bigger nations. So, in EU4, if I'm playing as, I don't know, like Flanders and I go to war with France, like I'm pretty much automatically screwed unless, I've very carefully set up my diplomatic web in such a way that I have a lot of people coming to my defense. If we took the exact same scenario in CK3 in 867 and I'm playing as like some duke in the Low Countries and I go to war with East Francia, if I have strong marriage alliances and he has not kept his house in order, I could actually win that war. So there's a lot more room for the size of your nation to not be the determining factor in who has the upper hand in a conflict.
You can just kill his kids.
That too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just do that anyway.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's going to be quite fun in some multiplayer games. Like, look, if you declare war on me, look at my character. He's got 23 intrigue and I've finished this tree. If you go to war with me, your dynasty's going to die. Do you want that? No? Leave me alone then.
Yeah.
Diplomacy by the dagger instead of the quill.
Halbert's asking, does the AI make use of the mechanics favoring small countries? They absolutely do, and they will know. Like, they'll know if you're weak. Like, if you're playing one of the big guys and, like, they know that your vassals don't respect you and have lowered all their contracts down and that they have strong marriage alliances with rival, people on your borders, they will definitely take advantage of that. So, yeah, there's a lot more room for short-term changes of fate, I think, in CK3. So, do we want to talk about humankind briefly before we get out of here?
Probably, yeah. Just to, so we don't have a massive backlog and it becomes its own whole thing.
I think they've revealed all of the medieval age civs at this point,
and the Dutch, the Renaissance civ.
Yeah, the Dutch for the early modern era. So,
which is like so nice.
So I think the last one we talked about on the show previously, which I should have looked at this before we started.
We need to talk about first, is it not?
Yeah. Because we talked about Ghana. So yeah, it's the Khmer, or Khmer, I think is how I've heard people who are actually from there say it.
I don't think I've ever met someone from there, so I'm just going to go with what you just said.
Sure. Yeah. And there it is on the stream.
Cool. Yeah, so they get some war elephants with ballista on
the back of them. I mean, look at that.
Yeah,
those are like the
pretty badass.
Siege elephants, which you can get in Age of Empires 3 when you play India, I believe. They're pretty cool.
I didn't remember that. Yeah.
Well, no, there's siege elephants. I think there's one that has something like a ballista on it. I'm trying to remember. I just used to make lots of elephants.
So long, yeah,
same.
It's like 1 and 2 got remastered recently, but I have not played AoE 3 in forever.
I think when it came out, I was already slightly past it, and I only bought it for nostalgia's sake. Played it for about half an hour, and was like,
Yeah, I mean,
we should play an Age of Empires game, the 4 of us, sometime.
That would be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
although I did used to play it as a city builder as a kid, and I kind of how I used to do it.
I used to love making my own maps and scenarios.
Oh yeah,
so I would have okay, I've got this area and it's full of spearmen, and I've got the enemy team has got 20 champions. How many can they kill? And that was I just love doing that over and over and over again.
Hellbert's also asking if I got to play Humankind. I have. I only got to play the first 2 eras, so the nomadic and then the ancient era, and then it stopped when you got to the classical era. I like it so far. I think I'm enjoying it more than I did Civ 6, which isn't the highest bar in the world, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to. I think possibly at some point later this year we're going to get to see more of it hands-on, hopefully.
Can I just point out for this, what do you say, Khmer? Is that what it's pronounced?
Khmer, I think, is how I've heard heard people say it. Yeah, who know what they're talking about more than I do.
Does that dude in front of the elephant look a bit bored to you?
He kind of does. Like he's kind of like
like yawning. Yeah, I see it. Yeah. I thought it
was like he's turning his head and calling out, like, "Hey!"
Watch out! There's a big fucking elephant with big chunks of wood coming through.
Yep.
Rather than yawning at the idea of, it's just another fucking elephant coming through town with his logs.
Look, there's another parade for the elephant. See all these rich people come to the side of the road to look at the bloody elephant. We see these every fucking day. Jesus.
Do I get a parade for yelling to people to get out of the way of the elephant? No.
Oh, you rich dickheads, get out of the way. There's an elephant coming.
Yeah. Fine, get stepped on. See if I care.
You deserve that.
So they're going to be a builder civ, so production focused. They can build reservoirs. Once again, we didn't really get any information on what these unique things actually do. But the ones I saw in the ancient era when we played the hands-on, it tends to be fairly similar to like Districts in Endless Legend or Civ 6, where it grants some kind of adjacency bonus to certain resource producing. I think they call them city extensions rather than districts in Humankind. So just changes how you lay out your cities more or less. Then the next one was
The
Mongols, yeah.
Who are, of course, militarists.
These look really interesting.
Mongol horde relied heavily on looting the land they invaded and sacking resistant cities. Maybe that gives us a hint about what the unit's going to do. And the Orda being their emblematic quarter, which is the same root word that we get the word horde from. So it's literally a horde. Yeah. So
Order.
Order. I'd like a pan-fried noodle.
I just like the
different reference than I was going for, but let's go with it as well.
I just like the idea.
Considering the live-action version of that film got put on hold because of what's going on in the world, the release of it did.
Right. Yeah.
Like I like the idea of like when you tech up, you can like basically have the Mongols, and you basically unlocking yourself to just being a massive conqueror for a while. So you go through the era of being a massive conqueror, and then pop into the next era and settle down a little bit more, And it's kind of
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see like if you transition between like the Harappans, who I actually played as in the demo, who like have no like extra military stuff. They actually get their unique unit is just a replacement for the scout. And then you go into like a really heavily militarist civ. That's going to be interesting.
And then settle down. It'd be like the Yuan dynasty or something. You just kind of like, okay, mull over now. We've conquered the worlds.
Yeah. So we're just going to chill. Yeah.
Build a palace or some shit now.
You can conquer it, but you're going to need some admin to administrate it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
then we have my least favorite, obviously.
We didn't get raided by these guys earlier today, and now they're back.
Yeah, the Norsemen. They get the long ship. That's actually exactly how you'd pronounce that. It's not lang skip. That is long ship. Yeah.
I have a feeling like whoever wrote this, the text on this image didn't have a keyboard capable of putting the little O on top of the A. Because I feel like it should be O instead of an A there.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what language they're pulling from. If it's Old Norse or Norwegian or Danish or Swedish, and then I also don't know. Which alphabet they're using or which writing standard they're using, because like Norwegian has 2 at least, and So I don't know. That could be. You could be right. Yeah.
I do love the outfit. Fellow, like the action shot of him jumping off the ship. It's great.
Oh yeah, the art style. I do really like the art style in Humankind so far.
Same. Well, I think that Amplitude is fantastic to be out because, I mean, the art for Endless Legend, and I didn't play much Endless Space, not really my sort of...
It's the same thing, yeah. Endless Space and Endless Legend both have very, very cool art direction.
Yeah, and the designs of the civilizations for both of those are just so wonderful.
I love Endless Legend.
Endless Legend. Goodness, thinking of, like, there's not many fantasy games where you can play as a sort of kind of Tibetan nomad Mongol that rides around on giant bugs, never declares war, but also has proxy wars with mercenaries. You know, that's such a cool little unique idea, and it's just filled with them, all like a weird clockwork cult with one big city. That's also really militaristic.
The one that ran on dust was fun.
Oh yeah, the sort of like vampire night things. That
I like things those.
Lovely.
So we have Meneth in chat showing us the different versions between Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish, and the spelling here, Langskip, is Norwegian. It would have the little circle over the A if it was Swedish.
So it is long.
With Swedish, SK is pronounced like a sh. So
same in Norwegian, or at least
it would be Langskip then.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And presumably
SK is a sh in standard Norwegian or standard Bokmål Norwegian. There's two standards of Norwegian. I don't want to piss off the New Norsk community.
And presumably,
we've already had this discussion about languages and culture. Let's.
In Danish, it's Langskibi.
Isn't it a joke?
No, in Danish,
but Danish.
In Danish, should just be. Yeah, you just say the first letter and then you give up.
Yeah, that's it.
Danish is like Swedish
long
with
sheep
a
in
frog
Welsh
in the throat. And then Swedish is like Finnish Swedish, but with another frog in the throat. Finnish Swedish is the best version of Swedish.
I don't know enough about like the difference between Swedish in Sweden versus the Swedish spoken in Finland. But
the biggest example that I can give is for the number 7 is who in Swedish and then shu in Finnish Swedish. And I don't know, I prefer the Finnish Swedish version.
Shu is much closer to how you would say it in Norwegian. So yeah.
I never
Finnish Swedish is Moomin. Agreed.
Yeah.
Moomin trolls, best trolls.
I think this is the episode of tangents.
Look, there was one dev diary. Guys, what do you expect?
There's going to be a lot of tangents. So we got the Teutons.
Which, real quick, before we go over the Teutons, who remembers what little Teuton knights looked like in Age of Empires 2?
I do, because I played them a lot.
And how they walked with their cloaks fluttering. It was so funny.
And you could put them in battering rams, and if you had enough of them in a battering ram, it would be faster to transport them around in battering rams and little buses, but it wouldn't be like for them to walk.
I love it.
And then they get the Kaiserdom, which is sounds like a name of a Paradox mod.
It does, yeah.
Romanesque cathedrals, symbols of imperial power. Probably going to be pretty heavily militarist.
Oh yeah,
is my thinking here.
Yeah, I imagine.
Although they did say, I think they said expansionist versus militarist is kind of the difference between expansionists are more focused on founding new cities, and I think militarists are more focused on conquering cities. So be interested to see how that works out. But,
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting, especially if you take an expansionist fairly late on. Wouldn't the world be kind of honest?
Like I don't know how that's gonna work.
Maybe you go in and burn down someone's city and then put your own there on top of it.
Yeah, that does make sense for the Teutons.
Yep, that's historically accurate.
I mean, these buildings clearly believe in the wrong god.
Yeah,
of course.
It's infected with paganism. We need to burn it down. Start again.
So then we got the Umayyad Caliphate representing the Arab world for this era. They get some special cavalry as well as the Grand Mosque, and they are science focused, which is very accurate. This was sort of the golden age of Islamic learning. So,
and then the Crusades brought all of that back to Europe.
Oh no, the Ayyubids first. No, the Abbasids came after the Umayyads, and then it was the Ayyubids, I think.
Yeah, the Abbasids. The Abbasids, I think, were directly after the Umayyads.
Which dynasty was it that the Mongols wrecked? Because it wasn't the Umayyads.
They wrecked the Khwarezmian dynasty in Central Asia. But I'm trying to remember who was the caliph at that time. I thought it was. Yeah, they burned down Baghdad.
The Abbasids were the
It was the Abbasids.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what that against.
That's who usually dies to it in CK2.
Yeah.
Where they become the Mongols.
Let me verify this real quick.
And then your entire world turns gold, and it's utterly terrifying when you're sitting there in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's like the Black Death in human form.
Yeah. I think that happened in our cursed Crusader King Succession game.
Yeah.
So the Ayyubids and the Abbasids both existed at the time of the Mongol invasions.
Oh, okay.
So that's both right. Yeah, the Abbasids held basically the Mesopotamia, more or less. And then the Ayyubids held like the Levant and like northern, I guess we would think of as like northern Iraq, and then Arabia, the Gulf side of the Red Sea side of the Arabian Peninsula, and Egypt were under the Ayyubids. So I think the Abbasids were still technically the caliph at that time, I want to say, but the Ayyubids were more powerful.
I would say probably like having two big dynasties at the same time at war with one another makes sense, because when the entire Islamic world was united under one caliph, Mongols wouldn't have stood a fucking chance.
Mm-mm.
That was one powerful nation, country thing.
Though, bringing it back to Crusader Kings, I think the most terrifying Mongol invasion I saw was where they had actually taken over China first. Oof. And so, for some reason, their troops all spawned inside the Western Protectorate, or with the Western Protectorate. And the Western Protectorate reached all the way across Europe until it was touching me over in Portugal.
Ooh,
my goodness.
That's scary.
That's scary. Yeah, that's scary right there.
I think I have a Reddit post with pictures of it. It was terrifying. Utterly flippin' terrifying. Wow.
There was a recent Kings and Generals video talking about the Chinese and the Umayyads going to war over Transoxania, and then how that was then the Abbasids came on afterwards and kicked out the Umayyads, and then they also went to war over Transoxania, and it was a really good, fun video and informative.
By the way, I noticed, I don't know if this is something that was added recently, but in Total War 3 Kingdoms now, there's a very far down node on the tech tree actually lets you establish a Roman embassy. And like it doesn't do anything crazy. It just gives you more trade power, basically.
The Chinese diplomats trying to reach Rome came so close. Yeah. They were in like at the base of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. They were the base of the Mesopotamian area. All they need to do is go a little bit north, but translation error and stuff. So they tried to go around the Red Sea instead. That didn't work because of the weather at that time of year. So they fucked off home and said, yeah, it's possible. They were so close. It was so close to contact between the two biggest empires of the day.
Yeah.
But, alas.
Alas, indeed. Who else we got that we have not talked about yet?
There was a YouTube channel I recently found. I'm trying to think of the name
of it.
But they had like loads of first, primary accounts, basically, of like Chinese and Romans describing each other, and it's all read out, and it's very good. I'm trying to think of the name of the channel. I'll get back to that in a bit. It's very good, though. I'd very much recommend it. Yeah.
Let us know if you figure it out. The Aztecs are the last medieval civ that they announced. So yeah, they're militarists, obviously. They get Jaguar warriors. They also get a sacrificial altar as their unique building, which, like, I'm not sure if I love that. I think that's kind of emphasizing the barbarism of people that the Europeans had a vested interest in portraying as barbaric at the time.
Mind you, the Aztecs did sacrifice quite a lot of people.
They did. Like, I'm not saying the Aztecs were nice people, but they also had ball carts. They also had an opera house in Tenochtitlan. That's like another thing that I always like. That's one of my favorite historical factoids about the Colombian contact that I like to share is that like there was an opera house in the capital of the Aztec Empire when Cortez got there.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a very, very advanced urbanized society, well beyond what I think exists in the popular imagination of most Western educated people. So
yeah,
what I find shocks people when talking about the Aztec Empire as well is they say people don't realize just how recent kind of they existed, because the great one you bring up is Oxford University was built while the Aztecs were still around.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of like blows people's minds. Like, no, surely not. Yeah.
The Aztecs weren't around that long.
No, they weren't. But like they were around when.
No.
Yeah. The Oxford University was like late 1300s, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the Mexica people, which is actually like Aztec wasn't an ethnic group. It was a political entity.
Yeah.
It was actually an alliance of 3 city-states. It wasn't even one like centralized empire like the Inca kind of were. The Mexica people had been around for a long time, and they moved into the Valley of Mexico and kind of took over it was probably the 1200s or the 1300s. I don't remember exactly what the dates on that are. But yes, as Halbord is pointing out in chat, the fact that they practiced, human sacrifice and subjugated everyone around them is part of why everyone else was so eager to help the Spanish defeat them at the time. So,
in fairness, though, this picture of Cultures Revealed, medieval era, it does show the Aztec ball game.
Yeah, that's cool. So they're acknowledging that to some degree. Yeah,
a few people in chat point out. Yeah, it was Voices of a Past was the YouTube channel. Definitely recommend it. Cool. Very, very good. Really good.
The one I was thinking of was again Kings and Generals, one of my favorite channels. They've got one on Roman-Chinese relations. I think also Invicta has a good video on it as well.
And then we have our first civilization for the early modern era, which is the Dutch. They get the Flute, which is a reliable cargo ship. Dutch were very good at building boats for transporting things around during this era. Except for the Dutchman that got hired. Yeah, except for the Dutchman that got hired to build the Vasa ship. He was maybe not.
Look, that was all their own fault for not putting enough ballast in. Like that ship would have been fine if you just waited and put some more bloody rocks in the bloody hold.
Yeah.
Fools.
That is still, I think, the way that I love to explain Swedish culture to people is that like. The day you get to Stockholm, the first thing they want to show you is their big ship that tipped over and killed a bunch of people.
It is an absolutely stunning museum, though. It's probably one of the best.
It is a very cool museum. I love the fact that that's the first thing they want to show you is this big boat that our king spent a bunch of money on that tipped over and sank.
I want next PDX to be at Stockholm because I missed it last time. It's funny. I don't know if I've said I've recently got pretty heavily into D&D. So I was watching an interview with Matt Mercer today. He was with Jacksepticeye, and he was talking about being in Sweden and being recognized and stuff. And he went to this like Viking restaurant, which was like really cool. And you'd walk in and they'd like announce your presence and bang their tankards on tables and stuff. It was really cool and stuff. And then Jacksepticeye was like, "Oh, I wish I went there. All I went to see was a fucking boat that sank."
It's the second best museum in Stockholm after the ABBA Museum. So
I'm not a fan of ABBA, so I'm going to go with Vasa on that one.
You're banned from the podcast. The only way you get back again is by singing the entirety of Waterloo.
Before we wrap this up, I do want to show you the most cursed image.
Okay, go for it. Oh, we got the VOC warehouse is their unique thing.
Yeah.
East India Company.
Speaking of the unique buildings, though, I'm interested to see how religion works, because we had two religious buildings there. We had the sacristy altar and we had the Grand Mosque. So presumably buildings are not tied to religion.
There you go.
Right. The Teutons one was a little bit religious as well.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You hate to see it. You don't want that.
The Arabian Empire seems to have annexed
north of Russia.
The Western Protectorate has snaked its way through the Black Sea into Anatolia and the Balkans and the Peloponnese, and then southern Italy, and then somehow into central Germany and Scandinavia. That's...
You know what? I'm going to say
we're gonna need a content warning on this episode.
Thanks.
And then they're over there bordering Portugal.
Oh,
Dr. Vickle in chat. I won't be getting sleep tonight then.
Yeah. Sorry.
Now it all belongs to Portugal.
Oh, naturally.
I can't believe it.
You invade China, you take all the land from the Western Protectorate, and China made the mistake of touching Portugal.
Am I just forgetting? Is Portugal really yellow in CK2?
You make it an empire, it turned yellow. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just so used to Portugal being green that like anything else.
It's actually
really
brown.
Yeah. That's even worse. That's awful. No country should be brown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because if you form Hispania, it always changes you to that color. Now I remember.
And then this happened early on. For some reason, during the Black Death, the Western Protectorate marched across the world to conquer Portugal.
Yeah.
Why?
You got to protect the West.
This kind of border gore is the part of CK2 that I really hate and turns me off the game.
Yeah.
That picture there, looking at south of France, north of Spain, just looks fucking ugly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though.
It's ugly.
It's actually improved a lot since they added that mechanic where you can, have areas breaking off.
Do you know what EU4 players want to hear about the most cursed part? Is when I ported this game over into EU4, Portugal stayed gold.
Ooh,
oh no.
Lovely.
Oh no.
No.
Refuse? I would love some kind of a mechanic that models the fact that ruling an exclave, which you have like no real logistical access to, would be a nightmare. If you just have a landlocked exclave in the middle of like a nation you're hostile to, and you can't even like get supplies there, you shouldn't really be able to hold on to it. Like it should just be a ticking revolt modifier that just goes up and up and up until you lose it.
That is a thing, I'm pretty sure. In CK2, isn't it?
They added exclaves.
Yeah.
They added if a ruler dies, your exclaves can go independent, but it's not like a ticking revolt risk, which is how I would.
I mean, even if they're not landlocked, the example I'm thinking of is England with Gascony. Gascony was incredibly autonomous because, it's very hard to control a region that's like, a sea away and there's a hostile country in the way. So it had like all the autonomy it wanted. You want more autonomy? Here, have more autonomy. Just like pretend that you like the British Crown and then we're all cool. That kind of thing would be pretty interesting. I don't know how they'd model it without adding, distance from capital modifiers to autonomy and stuff, which should totally be a thing as well. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we should probably be wrapping up here because I need to set up for other stuff. Rose, where can people find your stuff, and what have you been up to so far?
Twitch and YouTube. Trying to do some more videos on YouTube when Rosebud lets me. Streaming is happening when it happens.
Yeah.
And the podcast here. Right.
Awesome. Loris, what have you been up to, and where can people find your stuff?
Chapelcomic.com. I've been doing commissions still. And playing Sea of Thieves like I mentioned before. It's a very good game. So good.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I want to get into it more because I've heard if you get like a good group of friends together, it's a blast.
It really is. It really, really is.
Yeah. So like nobody from this show, but
Wow.
No.
Rude.
So Lambert, my non-friend, what have you been up to, and where can people find your stuff?
I've been obsessing over D&D recently. I've only just gotten into it after being interested for a very long time. So
to be young and in love with a role-playing system. A lot of my spare time has been
watching D&D videos. But on YouTube, I'm Lord Lambert, and I've been playing quite a lot of EU4 recently. And in the next few days, I don't know when, there's going to be a new series where I'm playing as the Ottomans in the 1356 mod, which is a lot more difficult than playing it in the regular vanilla, because the Ottomans, they weren't like a hegemon or anything back then. So it's fun.
Nice.
Watch it.
I am Lore Sworn Order on Twitch and YouTube. I'm AsaTJ on Twitter. That's ASATJ. I am doing EU4 as Brittany, playing tall colonial Brittany right now, and also just started a new series of Total War 3 Kingdoms, where I am playing as Zhongyan, the bandit king of Black Mountain, and we're in a very bloody scrape with Yuan Shao right now, that we've just been fighting over this one province and killing thousands of each other's soldiers, only to result in status quo for couple years now. So that's where you can find my stuff. Follow the podcast and follow NoCB Cast on Twitter, SoundCloud, all those places. And we will see you guys again next week.
Bye, y'all.
See you later.
Ciao.